Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're going to take a fascinating journey right into the anatomy of a timeless musical masterpiece. We are breaking down a piece of art that is, well, so much more than just ink on a page. It is literally a masterclass in human psychology and emotional engineering.
So let's kick things off with a question that honestly completely blew my mind. How can a piece of music composed way back in 1727 trigger the exact same chemical responses in your 21st century brain today? I mean, think about it. We live in an age of AI, smartphones, and just constant sensory overload. And yet, this centuries-old composition can physically stop us in our tracks. It makes us feel exactly what the composer wanted us to feel. To answer that, we're diving into an incredibly insightful book by Idoia Solores Etxabe, which analyzes Johann Sebastian Bach's monumental work, the St Matthew Passion. Etxabe brilliantly deconstructs this piece, showing us that we really shouldn't just look at it as some historical religious artifact. Actually, scratch that, it's a masterful piece of emotional technology. Bach was basically building a machine perfectly designed to move the human soul. Which brings us to Section 1, Beyond Religion. To really grasp the sheer power of this piece, we kind of have to look past its original context. Etxabe notes something so fascinating here. In Bach's hands, the Gospel of Matthew transforms from this fossilized historical text into a brilliant mirror of the human condition. Bach didn't want you just passively sitting in the pews listening to a story being read at you. He wanted you to look into the music itself and see your own joy, your guilt, your suffering, and your hope, just staring right back at you. So how did he actually pull this off? Well, he took standard compositional tools. We're talking melody, harmony, texture, rhythm, and he completely weaponized them. He used these specific elements to force the listener to become an active participant in the drama. It's like he was building a fully immersive experience centuries before virtual reality was even a concept.
Moving on to Section 2, the theory of affects.
This is really the mechanical how behind Bach's emotional manipulation. The crucial thing to understand here is a core Baroque concept known as the theory of affects. It's this idea that music isn't just abstract sound floating in the air. No, it's a precise science that can evoke very specific emotions and physically move you through carefully engineered musical choices. And Bach? He pushed this theory to its absolute limit. Every single scene, every aria, every chorus was meticulously designed to force a physical reaction from you. Let me give you a perfect example of this. Think about the famous aria Erbarme dich, which translates to have mercy. Bach uses a solo violin here, playing in a minor key, but it isn't just playing notes. The melody literally imitates the physical, ragged act of weeping, and underneath that, the bass line mimics the heavy groans of deep sorrow. When you hear it, you aren't just politely listening to the biblical story of Peter's regret. You are physically feeling human imperfection. You feel that profound vulnerability right in your own chest.
And Bach didn't stop there. He used massive contrasts to just yank you back and forth emotionally. First, you've got the turba, or the crowds. He wrote these as frenetic, violent fugues. The choirs are literally singing over each other with this frantic energy, representing collective, violent indignation. It builds up this intense physical tension. But then, he contrasts that with the arias. These are deep, intimate, incredibly expressive solos. By bouncing you between this violent, overwhelming crowd and the isolated, vulnerable individual, Bach captures that agonizing tension between human sin and divine presence perfectly. Of course, a human being can only take so much emotional tension before they just snap. So, Section 3, the choral refuge. Amidst all of that musical violence and deep, heavy sorrow, Bach strategically inserted chorals. Take the famous O Sacred Head Now Wounded, for instance. He used these calm, consonant melodies to build highly structured, collective emotional refuges. By using these familiar, peaceful tunes, he basically gave the congregation a moment to just breathe, a moment to find calm, tap into a shared sense of compassion, and then brace themselves before diving right back into the intense drama. Honestly, it is just brilliant pacing. Let's step out of the 18th century for a second to really unpack the biological and philosophical why here. Section 4, Music, Morality, and Neuroscience. What is so fascinating about our source material is how it directly connects Bach's composition to philosophy. The author draws a clear parallel between René Descartes' famous writings on the passions of the soul
and how Bach essentially translated those exact philosophical concepts into musical notation. It's like he was coding human psychology directly into the sheet music. And because of that, his music actually manages to bridge two completely different worldviews. We're talking Christian morality and Stoic ethics. Now, their metaphysical endgames are totally divided, right? One is all about a divine connection, the other is more of a secular metaphysical fiction. But they share core virtues. They both deeply value patience, acceptance, and resignation in the face of suffering. Bach's music is so emotionally resonant that it communicates those shared virtues perfectly, whether you're a devout believer or a strict Stoic. But guys, here is where it gets absolutely crazy. We're not just talking about philosophy anymore. This is hard biology. Modern neuroscience reveals that listening to this kind of deeply pleasurable, structured music literally triggers the release of oxytocin in your brain. Yes, oxytocin, the primary neurotransmitter linked to cooperation and empathy. Meaning, Bach's music is quite literally chemically altering your brain state to foster a moral connection with the people around you. It's basically a biological empathy engine. Which leads us perfectly to Section 5, a mirror of the soul. Just look at how this piece has survived through time. I mean, in the 18th century, it was highly specific, instruction meant just for a Leipzig congregation. Then, by the 19th century, it survived major philosophical shifts, even grabbing the attention of philosophers like Nietzsche, who critiqued its metaphysics but still couldn't deny its absolute power. In the 20th century, it morphed into these grand, secular symphonic interpretations in massive concert halls. And today, in the 21st century, it's experiencing this huge, universal spiritual revival. It has survived entirely shifting religious landscapes to become a universal comfort for completely diverse modern sensibilities. And this brings us to the author's ultimate key takeaway. True persuasion is born from empathy. Bach understood that morality and deep human truths, they aren't effectively transmitted just by lecturing people with words. They have to be transmitted through shared physical, emotional experiences. By making us feel the music together, Bach actually persuades us to be more compassionate. So I want to leave you with this final provocative question. In an increasingly erratic, isolated, and, let's face it, fragmented modern society, can sublime art, like the St Matthew Passion, actually save us? Think about it. If a piece of music can chemically induce empathy, if it can bridge massive philosophical divides through a shared emotional refuge, well, perhaps art isn't just a luxury. Perhaps it's exactly the unifying tool our human souls desperately need right now. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope it completely changed the way you listen to music. Keep learning, and I will see you next time.